Oh, I am live. It says you're live now. Okay. Greetings, Earthlings. How you doing? Um, I'm not one to always um want it or have to explain myself. That's pretty cool. Um, but I'm gonna tell you that's why. You could see the lights coming at me is why I have my glasses on. Now it does look cool from my point of view, at least my perspective. I think it looks cool. Um, but yeah, it helps my eyes because I normally have trouble with the lights. The lights can be um a bit for me. And I really look like I'm in my basement here. It's like this finished basement. This is where I am for now. And I've been doing a lot of like rewiring, the sound engineering part of things. And I was having a lot of difficulties with broadcasting correctly. Now, and I've had this mic for a while. Um, and I had this sound card for a bit. Actually, the sound card that I'm using is the same one that I would actually use when I would broadcast from my turntables, and I would bring my MacBook with me. Um, and I did a lot of recording too. These segment recordings I would do as well, and as well as just using Tractor and mixing live. Um, Now I have this cool mixer. I know it's like a preamp, so I have that, and then I have that sound card, and I had the settings. It was kind of funny actually. It was a little comical. Um, I was thinking maybe it would be a cool way to kind of record or play a prank on somebody because the way that it changed my voice, um, and I had the voltage up I believe on both because you have to have a preamp. The mics themselves aren't powered, so you have to give them some kind of power, right? And and I had that weird sounding like it wasn't like a robot, like it was almost like I sounded like really like almost like high pitched, but it added like this kind of feminine twist to my voice, and it was just interesting because just by changing the sound, it like and my mannerisms, it almost like completely changed my character. Like if I wasn't looking at myself, it was like a different person. So interesting twist there. And I have been wanting to do broadcasts here on YouTube. Because for many years I did the radio show. I don't know. Contacting extraterrestrial beings was one of many that I did. And that was like the main one, though. And it eventually, um, that's a whole story and everything. And I have a video about that, a very emotional video about that. And I stopped doing it. So, and then COVID came. And now when COVID came, um, I got into uh, just kind of being a dad, you know, um, and that took precedence. And, I was working as an engineer too at the time at the radio station. And then because of the disconnection, I because I pissed some people off or whatever there. Um, I was no longer doing that now. And that was a real bummer because I thought that was one of the best things I've ever done. And I've been hungry to do it ever since. So I did start doing some YouTube stuff. And what happened was I got these things called like strikes or whatever. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that I was, doing anything wrong. And I heard about some friends that actually like fought back and won or whatever. Um, so, but I played some videos and I was talking over um the videos, and maybe it was like too much of the segments for them or whatever. I don't know. Um, I'm not saying for YouTube, I'm saying for that organization that I don't have to talk about because I don't want to badmouth anybody. I'm just kind of letting you know the chronological order of how things went. And now, because of that, um, that, I kind of like went back and I was like, I don't know what's going on here. Like, you know, um, And I originally what I originally wanted to do, and I've saw people not saying this word, which it's totally legal here in New Jersey where I reside at. Um, the people won't say like cannabis. I don't know if that's really necessarily a bad word. You can't say that or something. But it is a legal industry here in New Jersey. Um, and I wanted to do um some things with that. And I started doing some videos on here, and then that got pulled. I don't know what I did wrong necessarily, and I'm just like, and I read about it, and then there's some like gray area. So I'm like, all right, well, I want to broadcast. I like to talk. There's a multitude of things that I like, but because of that separation that I had from Princeton, um, and it was because I was, doing radio and stuff. Um, there was a unique formatting program, and it's not like that I'm really into doing, like other main radio and stuff. And there's really nothing like it. And after that disconnect, it really stung. And maybe I should have looked into more doing things at other radio stations, because there are a lot out there. And I am looking into that because it's something that, I really enjoy. And, there's radio stations where, you know, if I'm trying to get popularity here and just talking or whatever, that is what that is. However, these radio stations, they already have the popularity, they already have the broadcasting range, right? They already have the fans, and then they'll could bring in new talent or whatever. Me, because I can do a lot of things. So yeah, I don't know. I just didn't do it, and and I got into, because I was working. I was, being a dad, looking to support, and then the drama of just life and everything, bills, and then we have COVID. We have this COVID thing going on, and it's a unique situation. And I remember at one point I went back into doing, marketing research, which does a lot with talking and calling people, and trying to get people to do surveys and everything like that. Um, you know, so I did that, and then eventually I got into the cannabis industry, and I was working, and I wanted to do videos. And I did a lot of like Facebook videos and things like that. But I don't know why, because I was just trying to focus in on one thing, and that's one thing with me is like I love life so much. There's like so many great things in life. I mean, don't get me wrong, I am without a doubt dealing with my demons and everything. Um, but there's a lot of things that I feel like that I want to accomplish, or at least that I like owe it to humanity or owe it to the world to leave these things here, because this is, I think, at least my purpose or whatever. Um, and at least my, communication to people. So, um, but yeah, the whole time I'm like thinking about music and everything, and I did some broadcasting. I started playing music when I was like 13 years old, and my radio show was based upon music. It was based on I would do like collage stuff or whatever, but it was based on like um turntablism. Uh I mixed music. I used records, but I did do CDs, and I did do digital as well. Um and I matched beats, and I did some minor like scratching or moving records with like delays and everything like that. So my show was based on music. It wasn't really based on talking, but I love to talk. I love to tell stories, and I do want to have a talk show. And I started doing stuff on X too, and like things kept happening. I bought some microphones. I had offline or whatever, some clip-on things. I really didn't like the sound and everything, because I was pretty anal about that. So I got out my gear and everything, and I set it up recently and put the lights on, and boom, here I am. I was having some mic difficulties, like I was mentioning, but you know things are kind of like, the sounds good and everything. At least I think so. So what I want to do is I want to excuse me, I want to because I was looking at other, excuse me, I don't know legality about showing like signs for brands or anything like that, but behind me here, this is my child. So that's definitely my brand. And um yeah, so, and I'm utilizing this room too, which now we're leaving this area that we're at, and I set up base here in the basement, which was always going to be like half studio and then like half playroom, which I always thought was a really bad idea, but we don't have to get into that. And then the well, he doesn't come down here anymore. There's some toys here and things like that, but I set up there's a TV that works too, cool, because I could go back and you know look at my YouTube videos or whatever, or I can use that as kind of a background backdrop thing. You can do cool stuff with that or whatever. Um so but it's gonna be like a temporary kind of fix thing. So it's not gonna be permanent. But I got it set up now, and I really like the way that it's going, and it's set up where I could just kind of keep going. And I was working in the cannabis industry, and now I'm no longer um in that industry. And which is a bummer. But like, I don't know. I mean, I love music and, radio, and I'm going to see, what I can do with that. But in the meantime too, do this, the best that I can, just to talk and see if people catch on, they like it, great. But I was watching this YouTube thing where I wanted to compare what I do and or what I could do to like what people are doing that are successful, and come up with an idea, because like I would just like to just talk about whatever the heck I want to talk about and just like do music or whatever, which I'm going to do, right? um so but there's people that are really successful with it, and like what are they doing, like what are they doing differently, like what can I do that they do, where I'm not like selling out, and I could still be true to the art that I'm doing, um, and not make it about money, right? But then be monetized, right? Because I would really like that, to have that as a full time gig or whatever. I mean that's a great expression, and then it builds into other things like doing shows and stuff like that. So I saw this guy. Am I wrong? I believe he was a comedian that's been on Joe Rogan or other podcasts and has his own podcast. It was like late at night, and it was like this late at night thing, and he had these synthesizers. I'm like, wow, that guy's into modular synthesizers. That's really cool. And I just recently got the Akai MPC One Plus. Um, and I am stoked about it. It's a workstation that I've always wanted. And also, what's really cool about it, it's a sampler. You can sample and sequence, and it's a great, like, brilliant drum machine. That model drum machine has been used in, I mean, just a lot of famous producers, like Wu Tang and I don't know. I can't think of too many right now. But there's a lot of people that have used that, like hip hop, other genres of music. There's a guy I see a lot on YouTube that samples a lot of old jungle drum and bass stuff, and does stuff. It's so many functionalities. There's this brilliant live functionality to it. So I was always, I think it was the SP or something, 1000. There was a 2000. It was a sampler back, I think, in the late 90s or early 90s. There was quite a few, but somewhere in the 2000 going into 2000s, and that was what people were using as a sampler. And it had its limitations and things like that. But I always wanted to get my hand on one because people were using it to make the music that I loved, and it had that uniqueness to it because you could go out and find old records, which I love to do, and sample them, and change the sounds and sequences, and kind of make this your own art, right? That's what the whole art behind DJing is, right? Um, and I always wanted one, and now, voila, I have one. So as I'm learning it, as I'm learning it, it reminds me of what an art teacher told me, that about drawing, and to not put too much into worrying about um, like realism, or that it was okay to draw things and to start out abstract. Well, if you think about in music terms, like what would be the equivalent of what is abstract, and to me, that would be ambient music. So I believe as I learn this, I can do some cool ambient stuff, basic patterns or sounds with delays and echoes that ring out. In fact, my mixer, and I've been doing some cool stuff with vocals and the way so I can have in the mix, I can have the drum machine, the sampler, um, and do some really cool ambient stuff as I learn this very complex instrument, but at the same time, present a live performance because it's my stuff, right? I'm making that. I'm doing, working from basic sounds and changing them and everything and tweaking them out and doing vocals or doing my guitar too, right? And then starting out ambient, and then as I build, listen, get ideas, and then more, you know, complex structures, complex song ideas, and see where it goes. I'll start kind of at night and having the concept of, um, you know, we're streaming and, like it's kind of dreamy. It's going to be like a stream for dreams, or streaming and dreaming, something like that. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I can have these segments where I talk about what I do, um, and hopefully, like it builds something because I would too. Like I want to get back into turntablism, and there's a long story that I'd like to tell eventually about, um, how I went through some really rough times, and I had to get rid of um a lot of my instruments. It was heartbreaking, and I'm like kind of building it back up now, right? And I want to get back into DJing again, right? But the problem with that is that the legality of the music and stuff, and I see people do it too. So, first and foremost, I want to have a good sound quality going out. So it took a lot of my time to get this right. And so, I definitely want to keep doing that. And, but, and I think maybe that's the best way it could build, where I'm staying true to its art. And because I have to look into that. I don't want to get any more of those. I want to do everything by the book. I love to mix music. I love to play music, and I love to sing, but I don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize a show being taken from me either, where I haven't even really, lifted off yet. And the whole one of the shows I was gonna do was with the UFO, the UAP, and I'm okay with not doing that. The amount of research it took, and just it seems like there's a lot of weirdness going on and cover up, and you finally think you figure something out, but then you realize it was just a hoax. It's a lot of like empty spaces you end up in, and like you're kind of going down these rabbit holes, and then they lead nowhere. And so again, I was going away from what I loved, and I realized that when I got more into my roots of things, this is what I love to do, and I'm exploring that, and what gave me like the most joy, and that's what I'm trying to grasp on. So let's see where it goes. We just got the vocals right. I'm going to try to bring in the guitar and the drum machine and see how that does. And hopefully, I would like to tonight do some live performance, some ambient stuff, but I can't guarantee it, but it will definitely be coming soon. So with that, guys, thank you for staying tuned. Be well. Peace.